Success doesn't last forever, and neither did Iverson's. At one point, he was on top of the world, a cultural icon, an MVP, and the face of the NBA. But then everything started to crumble. The money, the fame, the career, it all faded faster than anyone could have imagined. His story wasn't just about basketball. It was about a rise so electrifying that it changed the game, and a fall so shocking that it left fans wondering, how did it all go so wrong? How does one of the greatest players of all time lose it all? This is the story of Allen Iverson's rise, fall, and the harsh reality of what came after. Let's rewind a bit. Allen Iverson was born in Hampton, Virginia in 1975, and from the start, life didn't give him much. His mom, Ann, was just a teenager when she had him, and they didn't have much money to go around. But what they did have was a whole lot of heart. From the moment Allen could walk, it was clear he was a different breed. Not just good at sports, he was great. Whether it was basketball or football, Allen was the kid that made everyone stop what they were doing and watch. It wasn't long before he became the biggest thing in his hometown, showing up for high school games with a swagger that made other players look like they were just playing for second place. But for all his talent and promise, trouble wasn't far behind. At 17, Iverson's bright future hit a serious bump when he was involved in a violent brawl at a bowling alley. The kind of fight that wasn't just a fight. It was a full-on brawl that ended with him being convicted of a felony. In an instant, the future that had once seemed so bright was at risk. And to make it worse, the situation felt like one of those cases where the system was quick to judge him because of where he came from and the color of his skin. The charges were eventually overturned, but the damage had been done. People saw him differently after that, and so did he. But the story didn't end there. Instead of letting the incident define him, Iverson got a lifeline, a scholarship offer from Georgetown University. And that's where the next chapter of his journey began. In college, he was unstoppable. It wasn't just his talent, it was his intensity, his hunger to be the best. He had that rare combination of skill and drive that made you think, this guy's going places. Fast forward to 1996, and the NBA draft rolls around. Iverson goes first overall to the Philadelphia 76ers, and just like that, the dream was real. From day one in the NBA, Iverson was electric. He wasn't the biggest guy on the court. Standing at just 6 feet tall, he was often overlooked in a league full of giants. But it didn't matter. He played with a chip on his shoulder, and his fearless style earned him the nickname, The Answer. He was quick, crafty, and could score from anywhere. In 1997, he was named Rookie of the Year, and by 2001, he had cemented his place as one of the greatest players to ever step on the court, winning the NBA MVP award. But it wasn't just his play that had people talking. It was his character. He wasn't like the other stars. He wore what he wanted, spoke his mind, and refused to conform. His attitude became just as famous as his game. But it wasn't all sunshine and dunks. Iverson's off-court troubles continued to stir the pot. There were moments that made people question everything about Iverson's future. One of those moments came in 2002 when he went off in a press conference about missing practices. You've probably heard the quote, "We talking about practice, not a game. Not a game, we talking about practice." It became one of the most famous and controversial quotes in NBA history. To some, it was just Iverson being Iverson, speaking his truth, refusing to conform. But to others, it showed a player who didn't fully respect the game and his teammates. It caused tension with his coach, Larry Brown, and created an image of Iverson that was both loved and hated. His struggles off the court only fueled the growing controversy around him. Then the financial downfall began. Despite earning over $200 million in his career, Iverson's financial management was a disaster. He spent money recklessly, buying cars, jewelry, and living a lavish lifestyle that didn't align with his earnings. But it didn't stop there. The guy had a serious weakness for expensive habits. Stories of wild nights in clubs, gambling, and impulsive decisions kept surfacing. And all that spending eventually caught up with him. By the time he retired, Iverson found himself in financial turmoil. Lawsuits, unpaid debts, and bankruptcy followed him like a shadow. There were reports of him going from owning multi-million-dollar homes to living paycheck to paycheck. At one point, He was involved in a lawsuit over an unpaid jewelry bill. Yeah, a jewelry bill. Iverson, the same guy who made millions, was now caught up in financial struggles that felt almost surreal for someone who'd been a superstar just years before. But Iverson's troubles didn't stop with money and legal battles. His personal life mirrored his financial chaos. His marriage to Tawana Iverson was full of drama and public conflicts. Their highly publicized separation in 2010 brought the media's gaze to his personal life, painting a picture of a marriage on the rocks. The messy divorce proceedings and rumors of reckless behavior only added fuel to the fire. It seemed that no matter what Iverson did, his off-the-court life became just as headline-worthy as his game. His reputation continued to take hits, but he refused to back down or conform to anyone's expectations. Despite the storm brewing around him, he held on to his stubborn, unapologetic attitude. He wasn't perfect, but he wasn't going to let the media turn him into a villain either. As his career wound down, things only got worse. Iverson had been a warrior on the court, but his body was breaking down. The years of hard play took their toll, and by the time he was 34, the reality of his career winding down was setting in. He could have played longer, but the pressure, the pain, and the struggles off the court were too much to handle. His final years in the NBA were spent bouncing from team to team, but nothing felt the same. He wasn't the same player, and he wasn't the same man. And for someone as fiercely proud as Iverson, that was a hard pill to swallow. And the backlash? It never really stopped. He was labeled as difficult, uncoachable, and a problem child. Despite being an NBA legend, people started to see him as a cautionary tale. The tattoos, the attitude, the refusal to conform, it was too much for some people, too much for the league. But even with all the hate, Iverson had his die-hard supporters. There were people who admired his unwillingness to bend, his refusal to change for anyone or anything. But here's the thing, Iverson was never perfect. He had flaws, demons, and made mistakes, but in some way, that's what made him so relatable. He was the player who refused to play by anyone else's rules, who made his own path and didn't care what anyone thought about it. And even though his downfall was hard to watch, the truth is, it made his rise even more impressive. He came from nothing, broke barriers, changed the culture, and became an icon. Not because he was perfect, but because he was real. These days, Iverson has learned a lot from his past. He stayed involved with basketball through the Big Three League and even partnered with a cannabis company, Viola Brands, to create his own line. He secured his future with a lifetime deal from Reebok, which has given him a financial cushion, and he's managed to rebuild his life. He's not the same man he was when he was making headlines for all the wrong reasons, but that's part of his journey. His story of struggle, success, and redemption continues to inspire, proving that even when you hit rock bottom, you can still climb back up. The story of Allen Iverson isn't just about basketball. It's about a man who faced the ups and downs of life with the same intensity he brought to the court. A legend, yes, but also human. And maybe, just maybe, that's what makes his story truly unforgettable. Iverson's story is a powerful reminder that no matter how high you soar, you can always crash. But it's not about how far you fall, it's about how you handle the comeback. If you felt the weight of Iverson's downfall and redemption, hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more stories like this, real, raw, and full of lessons. Stay tuned because the realest stories are always just around the corner. Until next time, keep pushing forward, just like AI did.